know that those almond day granola bars are something that you want to make, but you know what? I know you're going to want to make this easy recipe, oatmeal chip cookies. I love making cookies. They're so easy and they're so much fun to make. And you know what? Of course, I love to eat all of the dough. Now, interesting enough, this particular recipe calls for coconut. And I thought you'd like to know, did you know that the coconut palm tree lives over 70 years and produces thousands of coconuts? Wow! Also, coconut creates, when you put coconut in your recipe, it makes things chewy, so and adds a little bit of moisture. Now, some tips. The other thing that this recipe has is, of course, chocolate, and I love chocolate. So some tips when you buy some chocolate. First of all, when you buy baking chocolate, you want to make sure that the package that you buy is sealed properly. And then when you take it out of the box, you want to make sure that it smells nice and fresh, like chocolate. Remember, because chocolate has a tendency to take on odors. So you want to make sure it smells like chocolate, because that's the way you want it to taste in your recipe. And then it should also break cleanly. So if it breaks nice and cleanly, like that, it also means that it's fresh. Additionally, when you want to store your chocolate, all you have to do is put it in a plastic bag, and it will freeze beautifully. And just make sure it's in a nice sealed container. It has to be airtight, or put it in a bag with a lock, and that will allow you to store it. And when you need it, you can just take it out of the freezer. The other thing that you may discover about chocolate is chocolate has a tendency over time to get a little white, or basically it's known as blooming. And here's some chocolate that has bloomed. Let me show you. Now take a look at this. What has happened here is it gets these little white spots. Now that does not mean the chocolate is old. It simply means that it has bloomed and the cocoa butters come to the surface. Now it will still taste great. Now what you can do if this bloom bothers you is you can polish it. How much fun, I mean, this is fun. You can eat it or polish it. But anyway, what you do is you simply take a nice little towel, and you can just do a little polishing. And it's a lot of fun, you know. You can just sit here and polish, and it will take care of the bloom that you have. Now let's get ready to make this wonderful recipe. Here's the ingredients. The oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, 1 package of semi-sweet chocolate chips, 2 cups of corn flakes, 2 cups of oatmeal, 1 cup of coconut, and 1 cup of chopped pecans, 2 cups of butter, 2 cups of brown sugar, 2 cups of white sugar, and 4 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of salt. Now, here's something that's really important, because I want you to make this recipe. If you didn't get it all written down, then not to worry, because we have all of these recipes available to you at the end of the show. We'll tell you how to get them, and you'll want this recipe. This is so good. Now, let's get started. First of all, corn flakes. Now, if you don't have corn flakes, that's okay, because what happens is you can take any of your favorite crunchy cereal, so you can substitute. Then, to that, we're going to add our oatmeal, and we're going to add our chopped pecans. Now, once again, something to remember about nuts in general. You can substitute. If you're not a pecan lover and you love walnuts, or you love macadamia nuts or almonds, that's what you can place in this recipe. Now, I also want to emphasize that whenever you take the time to toast your nuts, you'll discover that they will taste so good. Now, how do you toast your nuts? All you do is you take them and put them on a silver cookie sheet, and then separate them so they don't touch. Put them in an oven of 350 degrees, let them bake for about 10 minutes, then pull them out, let them cool, and you will absolutely see the difference in taste that a toasted nut makes. So add your nuts, and then of course your coconut that we learned lives for over 70 years, and then chocolate. Go ahead and put that in, and blend it up. I mean, you already know right now that this is going to be great, because this is, I mean, all of these things I love, and if it's going to go in a cookie, I'm going to love it even more. So you just blend it up, and now we move to putting it all together. Right in front of me, I have butter. This butter has been softened at room temperature. Now, here's a very important key. How do you keep your cookies from getting flat, crispy, and greasy? Don't ever liquefy your butter. When you do that and you let it become a liquid, it has a tendency to make your cookies greasy, flat, and of course crispy. So we're going to go ahead and blend the butter. Now, if you don't want to use butter, you can use shortening or margarine, whatever makes you happy. Now, I always have a tendency to always use butter because I love butter, and I think it tastes great. But you can use whatever's available to you. Then, brown sugar is going to go into this recipe, sprinkling it in, and then, of course, your granulated sugar. And we're going to blend this together. Now, what you'll notice about this particular recipe, when you make it, it's going to be a real stiff dough, and that's because we stuffed so much in it. Basically, we've stuffed everything that we could into this dough so that nothing else would fall out, and I guarantee you, when you take a bite of these cookies, you're going to go, wow, because they're great. Okay. After this has been blended, you want to scrape down the sides with your spatula, making certain that everything is blended. Now, we're going to add the eggs and the pure vanilla. And I also mention pure, and the reason is simple. I'll tell you, I really believe that having pure ingredients makes the difference. I mean, if we're going to take this time to create such wonderful, wonderful recipes, you'll notice that I always emphasize using pure ingredients whenever possible because it really does make a difference in the final product. And because vanilla is more expensive in its pure form, you'll discover, though, you can use less of it. So if you were using imitation, you'd have to use twice as much, where with pure vanilla extract, you can use less. Okay, now that that's all been blended, what we're going to do is we're going to add our flour, and then this is a good time. I also use baking as an opportunity to develop muscles, because when we make this recipe, it's going to require some good bicep movement here. And we're going to add this, and we're going to stir it in. And this is going to take some time. You're going to have to realize that this is not something that's easy for a little kid to do. The girls, I mean, they love cookies and they love recipes like this, but the most important thing is it does require some assistance from an adult, because this does require some extra effort in just stirring all of these goodies in. What we're going to do is we're going to set our oven temperature at approximately 325. It's been preheated, and I want you to, whenever possible, get an inexpensive oven thermometer. And the reason for that is you want to make sure that we all have the correct oven temperatures. And I have found it reduces the call to service, to oven repairmen, because all you have to do is adjust your dial on your oven to get the right temperature. Okay, now, what we're going to do is we're going to drop the cookies onto a cookie sheet. If you don't have an ice cream scoop like I have, and by the way, this is a silver cookie sheet and it's not buttered, and you're just going to drop this onto the cookie sheet. And I'm using an ice cream scoop because I want to make large cookies today. You can use teaspoons and make smaller ones, but the key is your bake time will be about 18 to 20 minutes. Now, the reason is the larger they are, the longer it will take to bake. How will you know when they're done? You simply touch them to test their firmness. Now, the smaller they are, it'll take about 15 minutes. Now, this is what they look like when they're done. And I want you to see, this cookie is so good and it tastes great. Just something that's important to remember, if you're ever just going to eat the dough and you don't want to take it to the baked form, don't add the eggs. And then you can just eat the dough all day long, but you don't want to bake it. Now, come right back, because I have something that you have to experience as well.